What is the core of the yoga class, of the construction of yoga class? The core of the construction of a yoga class is its ritual aspect, its ritualistic form. Yoga class is very ritualistic. This is typically Indian. This we have inherited from the Indians. And this is basically its skeleton, its backbone. You know, without a skeleton, you would fall to the ground, you would be a pancake. Yeah? So basically you would have no shape. And as a matter of fact, you couldn't do anything. In the same way, the yoga class has a backbone, the skeleton of its ritual form, the ritual. And the ritual has two dimensions. It has a dimension in space and it has a dimension in time. The dimension in time and in space, maybe there's a third dimension, which is the dimension of causality. So one thing succeeds the other in a certain there's a certain causal form that contributes to its shape. And this shape is very important. If you dissolve that shape away, you will destroy the yoga class. It's like the yantra that is important for the emergence of the chakra. Yeah, when you would meditate over some geometrical shape, that geometrical shape helps to awaken the energy. It's its backbone. In the same way, the geometry of the yoga class is the backbone of the class. You cannot imagine how important it is. It's extremely important. You could say it's the first step into manifestation. You know, we always talk about embodiment. Embodiment is also the unity of the polarities of opposites. Embodiment is the polarity of spirit and the polarity of body, and both of them are one. It is the unity of the pairs of opposites. It is yoga. Embodiment is yoga. Ritual is the first place to embodiment. So, how does that ritual in yoga take place? First of all, you need a certain geometry inside the class. The class cannot be arbitrarily put, my opinion, enormously important. When you go, for example, in a church, how does a church look like? You know, the church is not some kind of chaotic arrangement of tables and chairs with some kind of thing somewhere, yeah? But it's actually, there is a lot of geometry here, very, very clearly and very, very thought through, with a lot of ideas why that is the case. And you have these different shapes of the church and the rows of the people, and you have the form of the cross, and you have the mandala in the center, and you have in the front of the priest, and you have the couple above, and the bird, and all these symbologies that come together to form that ritual space that is circling around one center, which is above usually, yeah, which is like this golden crown inside above. So there is a great geometry here, and it's very, very important that you should aim for such a geometry, such a holy geometry that will help you to awaken the chakra, yeah, that helps you to awaken the power of the yoga class. How do you do that? Well, you know, first of all, you look at a room that already has that, and secondly, when people come into the room, yeah, you make sure the yoga mats are not just somewhat, because people don't possess consciousness, and if they possess consciousness, then sometimes they don't possess a feeling of responsibility towards creating something like this. They have just, their minds are absolutely not engaged in contributing. You know, some are just here and they're just waiting for something to happen, and it's your job then to array them properly. Yeah, the ideal array is the circle in any form. If the circle is not possible, it's the oval. If it's the oval, it's not possible, it's the grid. But it must be a clear structure. So it must be a structure in which the energy can manifest a certain pattern. There must be a pattern be possible to be made manifest. This is really very, very important. You see, what is interesting about order, about geometry. Order is an expression of the presence of consciousness on all levels. It's the expression of will in a certain way. If there is an order, there is a will. If there is no order, the will is further away. The universe is the movement from supreme from supreme energy into complete entropy, into complete chaos. All things move into chaos. They tumble down like the water that flows into the ocean. Everything flows into complete dissolving away. There is only one force that works against this. One force that collects the energy moving from the source and works against the dissolving away into emptiness. And that force is life itself. Yeah? That force is consciousness. That force is what collects the chaos and creates shape out of it. When you eat food, when you breathe air, yeah, and you grow a body and you make thoughts out of it, then you convert out of chaos order. Your body is a conversion machine. Your consciousness is a conversion machine. It converts out of chaos a certain structure, a certain inner order. And also in nature, when things become orderly in the one or the other form, it means that consciousness is present. When the plant forms out of mere light, some leaf and some structure, then it means that there is spirit present. When mere chaotic minerals dissolved in liquid crystallize out to form a crystal, it means that there is consciousness, it means there is will present, there is some will. You know, there's some direction present. Otherwise, the whole thing wouldn't create shape. Yeah? So, whenever you see order, you see the presence of consciousness. So, and this is like, in a way, this is manifest in why we want a ritual space that's clear. We want to manifest consciousness. So we put the mats in a clear form, and the clearer they are, the clearer our consciousness is. And the more chaotic they are, the more unconscious we are. So the less we are actually present. Okay? So that's the one thing. You want to form geometry. So the first form is a circle. The second form is a oval somehow, yeah? The third form is a grid. And somehow we always find in between those. We will find something. Yeah? And even if you have a grid, you should find a center. And the center should be the ritual fire, which we have here, in my opinion. Or the center should be the deity, in my opinion. Because every mandala has a center. What is the word mandala? Mandala is array. This is what it means. It means to array the energies around the center. This is the word mandala. And you are part of these energies that are arrayed around the center. Okay? Yoga is here.
What do you think about the lines? There are many classes where there are different lines like this.
If it's too dissolved away, it doesn't have strength. It shouldn't be too much dissolved away. The clearer the lines are, the more they are directed, the better. So the more the lines point to the goddess, for example, here, the better. Yeah, the more it's you know, I think everyone can feel that. You know, everyone can feel that we are all bowing down in front of the Supreme. Yeah, because transformation of consciousness takes place the stronger. You see, there are two things are required for any personal transformation to take place: a goal and your movement towards that goal. This needs to be required. You know, how do we move towards the goal? We move towards the goal by letting go of ourselves. Yeah? How do we define the goal? By holding on the goal. So you see, there's also again the unity of the polarities of opposites. The one polarity is you have to hold on the goal. So you must understand the divine, the supreme. And the other polarity is you have to let go of yourself and of everything in order to manifest the goal as ideally as possible. In that way, yoga is very, you know, you shouldn't be afraid of because I understand there is always this, that there are two forces inside everybody, yeah? This is the force of, wanting to have a goal, wanting to have a hierarchy in mind somehow, and rejecting that hierarchy because you don't want to give up or you don't want to lose your protection or yourself. You see? that geometry, in a way, has always a dangerous element in it. It's always dangerous in that sense, very hierarchical. You know, in the church, in front is the priest, the ship, the cross, the couple. There's a great hierarchy. The hierarchy is in every detail. Everything moves to the top. And in the top is the pigeon. You know, the pigeon in Christianity is the highest entity. It's the bird worshipping religion. Yeah? At the top you have, and everything moves into the pigeon. You know, all the lines. You know, first they move to the front, then they move to the priest, then they move up. You know, in the couple, it moves all inside. It's very hierarchical. And somehow, if you want to give very powerful yoga on the long run, you must do that too, fearlessly. And you must give away your own fear of creating that hierarchy. Because nothing that you do is not controversial. It is impossible. You cannot do anything that is not controversial. Everything you do will be in opposition to something else. However, you must do what you think is right. Okay? And somehow, how do you dissolve away that ultimate center, you know, that ultimate hierarchy in which everything goes? You dissolve it away by giving yourself. You know, just give yourself. You don't care actually. You do it, but you don't care. This is the polarity of the pairs of opposites that one should cultivate when you want to be a very powerful teacher somehow for yourself. You know, cultivate these pairs of opposites. And go into them mindlessly. Forget your mind, forget your thoughts, forget everything you're thinking, doesn't matter, go into it mindlessly. And then, you know, that magic can unfold. That magic of the yoga class. So you're creating that hierarchy, that center, that order in which the consciousness can flow up. And then you give yourself completely so it can be experienced. Yeah, this is the geometry of the class is the first thing. Yeah. And I think these days people are anyways good in that. They like to do these rituals, yeah, with singing bowls and ordering and deities and, you know. I still must say also a word of aesthetical element, which I think is important. Less is sometimes more. Yeah, people tend to, because that's a little bit the human mind thinks it always gravitates when it feels, when it has the sensation of incompleteness, you know, in that sense, you feel unhappy with your life. I'll give you this example. What's your first reflexive thought? Your reflex, just like you are on the heat, just like you touch the flame, you pull back. This is a reflex. In the same way, your mind is a reflex. You feel unhappy. What is your reflex? I need more. It's a reflex. Like, I'm not happy with my job. I need more job with more money. You know, I'm not happy with the money of my job. I need more money. I'm not happy with my girlfriend. I need more girlfriend. I am not happy with my friends. I need more friends, other friends. I'm not happy with my life. I need more life. You know, the reflex of the mind is always more. It's really a reflex. I think it comes out of the very deep inside of your brain. It's very, very deep. It's like some neurons, they always fire. I tell you more, more. Yeah. So the problem with this is that this is actually it's a default reaction that sometimes can be correct, sometimes, but that is in no relationship to the truth, and many times is completely incorrect. As a matter of fact, for finding consciousness, so on the way, you know, it depends a little bit what you pursue. On the way of consciousness, it's mostly wrong. You know, it can be right in certain ways of pursuing consciousness, in that sense of that you lack some particular knowledge of how to practice. You're unhappy, you need to learn more. You have the impulse to do more courses, more trainings. Yes, it can help you if you lack particular knowledge. Most of the time, however, for the blossoming of awareness, for the blossoming of what is the truth, more things are usually always in the way. Because your perception, your truth, who you are, what is already here. What do you need more? You don't need to think more, you don't need to do more in order to figure out what already is here. As a matter of fact, this is just your mind satisfying itself and trying to deny the actual solution to the problem. The actual solution to the problem is to shut up. This is the solution to the problem. Now the mind is constantly talking, is very unhappy with its own talking. Yeah? What is the solution of the mind? More other things. The solution is, as a matter of fact, to be silent. To stop that crap. To stop that talk. To stop that opinionating. To stop that doing. The solution is shut up and look. This is in a way what the mind should do. So, what does it now have to do with yoga classes? It's very important. It has to do, when you have the feeling you're incomplete in teaching yoga, when you have the feeling your class is not perfect, when you have the feeling something is not your highest vision, which is completely normal, then the first reflex would be to do more. It's extremely important for you to understand that. Also when you're in a yoga class, when you do asanas, you have the feeling, I didn't do the right asana. I do 3 more. Or I don't have the right candles. I put 5 more. I don't have the right crystals. I need some more. It's very normal. You understand yourself. You will have that reflex. Also when you're afraid you're not doing the right thing, I need to do more. This is an illusion. Most of the time, if you do less, it will work out better. Because somehow what you want to do is you want to create a space of consciousness, of self-reflection. So it is very wise if you try to do less. Maybe if you're not happy with your design, put things away. If you think you're not happy with your class, put some asanas out. If you think you said the wrong things, say less. And if you think you said the wrong things in your class, maybe some people will add something that they want to say in order to explain or justify. Just do less. So very often doing less is a way to reach the meditative state of mind. It's a way to actually approach the transformation of consciousness. Less. But know that your mind will not reflexively not agree. So the mind will, in its reflex, will not come up with that. So it needs a little bit, it needs for you first knowledge and then just application. You just do less and you observe and see what happens. You figure out it's amazing. So that's for you for design a thing. Sometimes less is more. Yeah, I don't even know if she's not too much, but I love her so much. So I'm so attached to poverty. I want her to be here. Yeah. So, good. So there is this geometry. I think that the yoga class should be a geometry. Where can we do the yoga class? We should do the yoga class in, as I said, in a protected space and also in a space where people are not looking. Where there is no gaze also. Yeah, people are not looking at you. Also, you as a yoga teacher, you use the gaze very consciously to look at people, and sometimes very consciously, while you teach yoga, you're not looking at people. So also very consciously, to give them their private space of self-experience. You want to create that space. Yoga is intimate. Yoga is intimate on all levels of yourself. You have 5 koshas. You have a physical kosha, physical body. You have a pranic body, your dream state, your prana, your power of life. You have a mental body, your mind, your thoughts, your identity. You have a psychic body, your heart, your spirituality. You have a spiritual body. You know, your soul body, Anandamaya kosha, the body of bliss, and you have your soul. So you have like these, these bodies, and on all of those bodies, yoga is intimate. What does that mean? What is intimacy? What is even intimacy? Is intimacy wrong? You know, can you go out naked? Would you go out naked? Is something wrong about going out naked? You know, it's very interesting. Self-evidently, there is nothing wrong with going out naked. Yeah. However, it's not good to go out naked. Also not for yourself, because you are exposing your vulnerability because that's what it is about. Interesting. Let's go back to the Bible. I tell you a cool story about the creation myth, because it had a little bit to do with this, you know. It's very interesting, about vulnerability. When Adam and Eve were in the garden, Eve, which is the female force, yeah, that brings forward evolution, talked to the snake in the tree. Of course, the snake was in the tree of the tree of self-realization, you know, of erkenntnis, of realization. The tree of, I don't know how it's in English, the word actually. Do you know what is the tree called? In German it's called der Baum der Erkenntnis. Okay, the tree of self-realization. And the snake, God told them not to eat from the tree. And so they how humans are, they cannot, if somebody tells you not to do something, it's like if children, don't open that door ever, whatever you do in that house. Everything that is in front of that door, okay, what's in there? So maybe that's God wanted them to eat from the tree. You know? So he made them aware of the tree. You know, before maybe they wouldn't have even figured out there is a damn tree in the center of the garden. Yeah?
It's the tree of knowledge.
The tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Right, the tree of knowledge. So he said, yeah, you know, do whatever you want, but don't eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. I think it's this, the tree of self-realization. And so, and Eve, of course, happened to be next to the tree, and the snake spoke to her. The snake, you know, is a symbol of consciousness, actually, yeah, of the awakening. So, and the snake spoke to her, yeah, you know, what God told you is only half of the truth, said the snake. And Eve said, yeah, what's the other half of the truth? And the snake said, well, you know, what God didn't tell you is that when you would eat from the tree, when you will eat from the fruit of the tree, your eyes will be opened and you will become like God. And then Eve said, oh, this sounds like a good plan. And she was fast convinced and took the apple and bit from the apple, and then her eyes were opened. And she realized, you know, and then she gave her husband, because apparently Adam was just completely unconscious, just hanging around the garden, and Eve gave him the apple, and then Adam also ate from the apple, and then also his eyes were open and he could see. And both realized that they were naked, and I come later what that means. It's very interesting, you know, they realized they were naked, and then they were covering themselves, their genitals, you know, with leaves, you know, and Adam was hiding in a bush. And then next day, God passed by the garden and said, Adam, why are you hiding from me? You're hiding apparently in the bush. And Adam said, it's because I'm naked. And God said, how do you know that you're naked? And Adam did that what all good men do. They blamed the woman. He said, it's the woman that you gave me that gave me the apple. That's why. So he blames the woman. It's the woman. She did it to me. That now I'm self-conscious, such a shame. Said, the woman gave me the apple. God said, well, so since God actually doesn't react to this, but he says, since you have eaten now from the apple, yeah, so you both, Adam and Eve, he speaks to both of them, says, you know, now you have to live life as mortals, and you have to, Adam, you have to work on the fields in thistles and blood and sweat and work hard till your death, till the end of your life, and suffer in work. And you, woman, you have to suffer in childbirth and with life and death of the others. And both of you will have to suffer the life of mortality. And so you have to leave the Garden of Eden. So this is basically the story. So what do we learn from that story? You know, what is it? What is that awakening of self-consciousness actually? That awakening of self-consciousness is the realization at very first that they're naked. So at very first they realize I'm naked. What does it mean to realize that you're naked? It means to realize that there are some things about you that are vulnerable, you know, that can be exploited, that are maybe imperfect, that are maybe endangered. Just like you, in your totality, you are in danger. The highest self-realization is the realization you are mortal. You know, this is basically what God says. He says, now you are mortal. But somehow to cover yourself with leaves and to realize that you're vulnerable is the same realization. It's the realization that you're mortal. And it's the realization you can be hurt. You can be judged. You know, people also dress themselves, not necessarily only because they want to avoid being raped. They dress themselves because they think they're imperfect. This you see, for example, in people who think they're perfect. You know, men with very nice muscles, they very often run around without t-shirt. It's interesting, because on this example you see it's not so much about being protected against the cold very often. You dress yourself to hide that you are actually imperfect. So you're hiding that you are afraid others people could judge over you. For the same reason, people who are inclined to feed on the agreeing of the others show how beautiful they are. The woman the same. You know, if they have very nice boobs and very nice body, then they have almost nothing on them. You know, to show how beautiful they are, so that everybody can say, "Oh, this is so nice." Yeah. Whereas those who think they're not so beautiful, they cover themselves. So you see what I want to say. It means to cover oneself is a sign for the recognition that there is something vulnerable about you, something other people could judge yourself. It's a sign of consciousness. One of my sons, Niels, who is extremely conscious and very intelligent, much more than me, he jumped over 2 school classes already and he is 13, he's very smart. He only teaches himself out of the books. What is interesting about him was, whenever he dressed himself, already when he was 5, he showed people the door. He said, "You go out now of the door, I'm changing." And I was like, "You're 5. You know, with my other son, Noah, I'm showering naked. You know, and he's 6, he doesn't care." Yeah, and you're like, you're sending me out the door, you know. Very interesting. Yeah, and he always did, very, very self-conscious, you know, very aware, you know. So this is what I want to say is, with this, your nakedness, why don't you go outside naked? You don't go outside naked because somehow you are afraid, right so or wrongly so, that there is something about you intimately that could be hurt. That's why you're covering yourself. So in that awareness, and here come to yoga now, yeah, that thing inside of you that is vulnerable, that is human, that is mortal, which is normal. That mortal thing inside of you that is fragile exists on the level of your body, it exists on the level of your prana, it exists on the level of your mind, and it exists on the level of your heart. There are bodily vulnerabilities, there are pranic vulnerabilities, your dreams, your desires, for which you do not want to be hurt. There are mental vulnerabilities, your ideas and thoughts that may be stupid or not, of which you're not sure what they actually are, that you do not speak out because you don't want to put them to debate, not because you are so proud of them or you are so ashamed of them, but simply because you don't want to be judged because of them. Yeah? You keep them for yourself because you are vulnerable on basis of your mind. This is what it means, on basis of your identity. Yeah? You're not talking about what you think. In the same way, you have dreams in your heart and feelings about the Supreme that you may not share because they're very intimate for you. And when you would share them, then other people would have their thoughts and maybe judge over you, and you don't want to do that. So on the level of body, on the level of prana, on the level of mind, and on the level of heart, you are vulnerable. The practice of yoga requires that we open up to these vulnerabilities. Because only when we open up, just like in day-to-day life, just like in our relationships, we grow because we are vulnerable with each other. That's why we grow. You know, if you're not vulnerable with each other, there is no growth, because there is no truth. Because the truth is, you are mortal. The truth is, you fell out of the paradise. The truth is, you ate from the apple. So, in order to grow, you must accept that, you must feel into that, you must fuse on basis of that, you must accept that vulnerability, but it's also okay that you're not doing it in any space, because people are not necessarily good. People are just driven by their own desires, you know, and you don't expose yourself. You're stupid if you do that. Yeah? You're just not doing this. So, to make long story short, Yoga is now intimate on the level of your body. You show your body. You know, people are stretching, people are moving, people are opening themselves, their body is visible. People are intimate on the level of their prana. Their feelings, their dreams, their desires, they're visible in yoga. Yoga is intimate on the level of mind. It becomes clear, you know, what you're struggling with maybe, and maybe what you're thinking. And people is also intimate on the level of heart, because somehow it's about the last questions of mankind, and it's about the questions of God and life. So on the level of heart, yoga is very intimate. Since that is the case, the yoga class must be extremely protected. First, be aware of that, like be aware, and then create a space in which people can be really themselves, you know. I think one of the first things which are important not to create too much, it has many implications. First, people shouldn't look in from the outside. There should be a certain protection from the outside. But also from the inside, don't create too much competition among people. Like, we come later to this, don't create the seed of competition, because the seed of competition will physically, emotionally, mentally, and in all of that levels make it hard for people to open up. Yeah? But from the outside first, create a space where people don't look inside. Therefore, actually practicing in the park where people pass by is rather not such a good idea. You know, practicing in nature where nobody's passing by is something else. But practicing in the park, not so good. Maybe, interestingly, you don't feel it so much when you're a student. It may affect you, but you don't feel it so much. But me as a teacher, I feel it a lot. It really upsets me. So when I'm in the park and there are people looking, I'm very upset. It's very, you know, I'm really very, it's very hard. I almost can't do it. Yeah, like one time I was teaching in Italy and we were teaching with this Laube, little circular space we were teaching, and people were passing by looking inside. It was very hard for me. I was really like, you know, almost standing up in between and shouting at people. Yeah, it was really hard. So create a space where there's no one around. Yeah. Then when you choose such a space where there's no one around, and for example you should choose a space in nature, which is perfectly possible, don't choose a space in nature that's under the sun and that's in the proximity of insects. You just avoid that. You know, sometimes in nature it's a little hard to find a place that's not in the proximity of insects, yeah, but it's quite easy when you just think about the following thing. If you do it in July, August, then you only practice at the noon time outside in the shadow of a tree. If you do it before July, so June, till June, you may be able to practice outside also in the evening and in the early morning. Yeah, but in July, August, already forget it. Don't even try. Yeah, also in Austria, for example, and maybe also in other countries, maybe in Greece, for example, or in Mediterranean countries where there's not so much sweet water proximity, there is not so dramatic. But it's very, very dramatic, like in Austria, in truth. Like, don't do it, you know, the mosquitoes and so. This is also in the Yoga Sutta, in the Hatha Yoga Pratipika, we have that statement. You know, you don't practice, no insects, it's just not done. Why? Because you can't enter the meditative state of mind. Because your mind will be constantly busy with the outside object. The Buddhists use this as a meditation technique, but we don't need to do this. Yeah? You know, it's a technique of self-concentration in the midst of just to stay focused. Yeah. So, and then we have so right. For the same reason, you don't practice under the sun, under the full sun. You know, there are 4 times to practice. The before sunrise, at noontime, after sunset, and at midnight. The best time is the time before sunrise. The second best time is the time after sunset. The third best time is at noon, and the fourth best time is at midnight. Try not to practice in between somewhere. Yeah, try to stay with these times. These times are the ideal times for the movement of consciousness. However, if you practice now at noon time, yeah, for example in July, August, which is very nice to practice outside at noon where the sun is high under a tree, yeah, then do not practice in the sun, because practicing in the sun will hinder consciousness also to move into the meditative state. We always want to move into the meditative state, which you correctly said. So there is the state of outside awareness, there's the state of inside awareness, and there's the state of meditative awareness, you could say, simply. Yeah. Actually, there's another state also, but these are the two most important ones of which we are aware in our day-to-day life. So the outside, the inside, and the meditative state. If people are passing by, you're outside, you're thinking about the others. If the sun is shining, you're outside. If the room is too dark, yeah, and there is too less stimuli and it's in the night, then you are in the inside, you're also not in meditative awareness. Okay, so you need this center space. You also shouldn't practice for that reason in complete darkness. It's also not good. You know, it should be a light, you know, so that the mind can focus on something. It's always the unity of the pairs of opposites. Two opposites come together, alertness and completely letting go. Yeah? But since we are day creatures, the human beings, our main problem is the distraction through alertness. So our main problem is the distraction through the sun. Yeah? We are distracted by light. So you practice in the shadow in this. Yeah? Good. So, so much to the space. Then the time, the ritual. The ritual is also ordered in time. Yeah, it's along the axis of time. You start, everybody comes together. Yeah, then you do the mantra. Then you start the body of class. Shavasana, mantra, exit. Keep that ritual and always keep it the same. Also keep the mantra, because the mantra is an embodiment. Magical words embodies the spirit. When you disregard the mantra, you disregard the guiding spirit in the class. And then one day the class will be devoid of power. There are two strategies to deal with that if you don't want to sing a mantra because of other people. Either you just ignore it and you simply sing your mantra, and then the people will stay with you who love the mantra, and those who don't love the mantra go somewhere else, which is perfectly reasonable strategy. Because you should not only try to sell what you do. It's not the right thing. You should do what you think is right and then see which people come to you. Don't enslave yourself. You will never satisfy anyone. It's not possible. There will always be people who don't like the way you do, which is okay because you're not perfect. You know that you're not perfect. But anyways, you can only approach the truth as good as you can approach it. You can only be as authentic as you are. Yeah? And you are incomplete, and that's okay. Don't try to satisfy others. It's not working. So in the long run, you fail. It's also a life hack. If you try to satisfy others, you will fail. You have no chance. So don't do it. Like, simply do what's right. So if other people don't like the mantra, goodbye. Or if you nevertheless want to teach to a group of very strong believing Muslims, you know, you can nevertheless use the mantra of silence, not to disturb their minds. So there is still a way, you know, to maybe go around the constructions of the mind. You know, you do not need to disturb people also. Yeah, you do not need to be disturbing. This is also something which is simply normal. Yeah? You can use the mantra Om or the mantra of silence. Yeah, somehow silence is really also a mantra.